Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
It's good to see you.
Thanks. It's good to be seen.
You don't look like a decrepit heart patient.
Yeah, they let me out of the home for some things, you know. What are you guys up to? So good to see you.
Yeah, we've been busy as we've been in a long time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, what do you want to chat about today?
Where are you airing these?
So, I did start another Facebook page, which I'm not happy about, but I'm in talks with Lakes Region Cable. See if I can put some of them up there. Give us some local access, and I'll still keep sending them down to Concord to their cable station. I mean, if you know any other places, let me know. I'd be happy to.
Well, you could also just air them directly on Facebook. I mean, you can just upload video to Facebook.
And I'll probably still put it on YouTube as well. Nobody goes to my YouTube page. Nobody knows me, so.
I mean, you could promote the YouTube page on your Facebook page.
I could.
Do you have a Mac SE behind you?
I do.
That was my first computer. Well, my second computer after the Radio Shack. I forget what that was. Something 8800. I don't know. Yeah. And we still have that in our garage, and it's what I used all through college. And
it works. It's functioning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What can you do?
It fires up. It's got a little floppy disk with some games on it.
You could play Castle. What's it called? Dark Castle?
I never played Dark Castle. But
what do you use it for? You can't connect it to the internet.
I wouldn't want to try anyway. So no, I just have it. I used it years ago and just keep it. You know, it's I don't know, antique.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I like your poster wall behind you.
Thanks. Hope to get some more up there. My wife keeps doing that, but she's into nostalgia. So if I pass away, she has plenty of memories.
Well, you did say that, you're hesitant to get back on except for something that's like really challenging and meaningful to you, like True was.
Yeah.
And so I got to feel like that means you got to come out for our town because.
Oh, is that right?
Guys your age have to try for the stage manager. That's like the best role out there for guys of a certain genre.
Well, I know that.
James Whitmore played it.
Paul Newman.
There's no angry
section.
Yeah,
it's good for your heart. He's the calm guy.
Well, we'll find out if I've taken care of some of that. I don't know. No, we haven't tested it yet, but we may. So let's chat about, I don't care where you want to start. What's more important to you? You want to talk about Powerhouse? You want to talk about the Mill or the Colonial? What do you want to?
They're sort of all interconnected.
Yeah, it's all interconnected. So we could tell you just about what we're doing and how it connects the Mill and the Colonial together.
Good. Fire away. Start wherever you want.
Okay. So should we introduce ourselves? Where are you want to introduce?
What? Everyone knows you. Why would I have to do that?
Everyone knows us.
I'll put it in the intro.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us, Ray, on your podcast show. It's good to be here.
Great.
Good to see your smiling face.
Yeah, thanks.
We're appreciating that you wore your fluorescent shirt so that
I didn't want you to miss me with all the what's going on in the background.
In the two Zoom boxes, we might have lost you, but now there's no way we can lose you. So we know.
I know. It's why I have my name in my underwear in case I get lost on the street. So
smart, always thinking. Good for you.
So we're here to tell you about Powerhouse Theatre Collaborative, our new community theater group, and how it relates to the Belknap Mill and the Colonial that's being soon to be completed in downtown Laconia.
So when you say soon, I might as well start there. What does soon mean?
Good question. So the Colonial Theatre has been undergoing a major renovation. It is a theater that was built in 1914. It is being brought up to modern standards while keeping all of the important historical interior. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous inside. I can't wait for people to see it. It should be done in the next month or so. COVID has set them back a little bit, but not too badly. And of course, being finished doesn't mean necessarily open. We have to wait until it's safe to do that, but it should be soon.
So who are the backers for this?
So this project was funded by the Belknap Economic Development Council and the City of Laconia. they worked together and found a whole bunch of different funding sources. And, this is a project that started in like 2015, in the planning phases. And it took a while for them to raise the money to get it actually done. And then, of course, as they started construction last year, that's when COVID hit to slow things down some more. But so it's been in the works for about 5 or 6 years now.
It's been a big collaborative project. There was a lot of local support, and then you got the Economic Development Council and the city, and then they applied for grants. There's a lot of historic tax credit funding that allows them to refurbish all the beauty that was in there before, the original beauty. So it was a very complicated puzzle piece of funding sources that they finally got all the pieces to fit together properly and were able to get it done.
But the nice part about that for us is we didn't have to deal with any of that. Our job was simply to talk about how it might be used and what could be put in there once it was finished.
So how did you guys get involved? Why and how?
So David Bounds, who well, the late Laconia city counselor, he knew us from our years of doing theater with him, and he was, as a city councilor, on the planning committee for planning the renovation and the programming for it when it was finished. And David asked us to join that committee, 5 or 6 years ago now at this point. So we were there to give a perspective of how, with our background in the Lakes Region art scene, we've had daughters and been involved in dance companies. We obviously have a theater background. We knew a lot of the different arts groups in the area. So we were helping them first figure out sort of the architectural needs for making a modern theater that would be useful to the various groups who might want to rent it or perform there. And then further down the line, thinking about how the Colonial might be managed and operated. So we were in and out of that committee for, the last 5 or 6 years. There were times when it was very active, and then there were, a year or two when they were just working on finding the funding where we weren't involved much at all. And then finally the funding fell into place, and then they came back to us to start talking to them about helping them figure out programming.
Does it have like a one purpose, or is it like a multi-purpose kind of thing? Is it what are they hoping to do?
I think the initial idea was this should be as flexible a space as possible. So they want it to be able to be used for, having your Rotary Club presentation, to having a dance troupe, to having a
concert,
touring,
or
comedians, things like that.
So if you want to think about it in terms of, it's a little bit like the Capitol Center for the Arts and a little bit like the City Auditorium in Concord. They wanted both sort of styles of program. They wanted to be usable to the local arts groups who might want to perform there and rent it. And they also wanted to have national touring acts come through that would bring people to downtown Laconia, throughout the year, depending on what was going on.
They wanted to, because if you think about it, the Economic Development Council really wants to revitalize, bring lots of people to downtown, and the city invested money as well. And so that means they want it available to city residents, and that means both as patrons and as users of the facility. So they want to make it available to local groups to rent as well.
So your function is what? You're going to try to bring in groups, or you're going to just oversee what's going on?
So we're actually just going to be overseeing our program. So what happened was, when it got down to finally figuring out what the programming would be, David and the city came back to us and said, what would you guys do with it if you were involved? And we said, the first thing we do is we'd start a community-based arts program, because it's less expensive to produce than having to pay for, national touring acts to come in. And it would really function as the heart of the building, which is making it useful and usable for local people to perform there. So we said we'd start with a locally based arts program, which they really liked, but they also wanted to have national touring acts coming through.
So then Spectacle Management came on board and approached the city and said, hey, we're interested in maybe managing this theater, and we'd be interested in bringing in national touring acts and comedians and things like that. But we really want to have a community component. And the city said, oh, hey, you guys should talk to each other. So they put us in touch with each other. And so the city hired Spectacle to manage the building, and they'll be keeping the calendar, bringing in their own program and staff, and not producing, but bringing in acts. And then they asked us to be the resident theater company to have some baseline community-based programming.
So does that give you a permanent slot each year?
Yes. So as the resident theater company, we have an agreement with Spectacle that we get 5 production weeks a year to do with what we want. So we sort of get first dibs on the calendar before it gets opened up to the other groups who want to use it to sort of lock it, make our season plan, and then they'll schedule around that. What we really liked when we met with Spectacle was they're a for-profit company from Massachusetts whose business is managing venues and booking acts. That's what they do. But they also, as Johanna said, really felt that for the Colonial to be successful, there needed to be a community component to it that got the local people excited and wanting to also come, see the acts that Spectacle was bringing in, but that felt kinship to it because they see their neighbors on stage or they get on stage themselves or whatnot, all the good things that community theater brings to an area. And so we have a partnership with them where we're sort of their liaison to the local community. So we've been introducing them to some of the other arts organizations, and we'll be able to provide them, sort of guidance and feedback on how to navigate sort of the local waters and things like that. And so it's really a nice blend of we get to focus on what our strengths and our passions are. They get to focus on what their business model is based on. And the skill sets complement each other very nicely and allow us to each sort of use the venue in our own way, collaboratively and cooperatively, but providing the local audience very different types of entertainments.
So is there any chance is there overlap with like what's going on in Concord or any other place? Is there a chance that you're going to cannibalize audiences from other groups?
Well, we should also mention that we're associated with the Belknap Mill, and we're a program under the Belknap Mill, and we called ourselves Powerhouse Theatre Collaborative. Powerhouse comes from the powerhouse that was at the Belknap Mill that created energy for the actual mill and actually had excess energy that powered downtown Laconia. So we want to power the arts in Laconia, and we called ourselves Collaborative because we plan to work with a lot of other groups. And so we already have several programs that we're doing with Community Players of Concord. We have collaborations planned with Jean's Playhouse.
NCCA at Jean's Playhouse.
And so, whenever you put something on, of course, on any given weekend, there's a limited audience that has to see both. But I think there's going to be such a range of programming throughout the year that I don't think we'll be cannibalizing. We plan to try to work together with other groups as much as possible.
Yeah. Have you had any feedback from like Capital Center for the Arts? Are they concerned at all? Groups like that?
So they wouldn't be concerned about our part of this because we're just essentially a community theater group that's setting up shop as a resident company. I think they may their programming is more in line with the types of events the Spectacle will be bringing in. But
so I would leave that question.
I would leave that question alone because that's not really our side of it. But
right.
Like anything, any new venue is going to obviously attract eyeballs as it's new and shiny and exciting, and it's how the programming connects with the local populace is whether it succeeds long term or not and builds it.
And for example, the Belknap Mill has a mission of arts and culture and being sort of a community center. And they have a big focus on the arts, and we're going to be their theater wing, but they have other types of arts programming. And so I think the idea is you've got the Colonial, you've now got a new venue in Lakeport down the road. There's Chaos and Kindness is opening something as well. I think the idea is you bring arts to more arts to the region, and it just becomes a arts destination and a place where people go to look for things.
So we sort of didn't totally finish the story. Explain how the mill intercepts with this plan. So Johanna and I were theater artists in residence at the mill last year, where we were doing some very small, play readings and stuff at the mill that were designed to just present interesting works and then provide talkbacks and discussion about the plays. And once it was decided that Spectacle was going to be the manager of the Colonial, and we were going to be a community theater portion of it, that's when we decided to go back to the mill and discuss with them just expanding our program to continue what we were doing already at the mill and add larger scale productions to the Colonial slate. And it worked really well because it's right in line with, as Johanna was saying, the Mill's mission, which is basically to be a community and cultural hub of downtown Laconia.
For history and art.
So now we're pairing the Colonial from 1914, which was, an entertainment center for downtown Laconia, with the Belknap Mill, which was built, I think, 1823, which is representative of sort of the industrial heritage of the Lakes region, and putting these two venues together to become sort of a dual powerhouse, if you will, of arts and culture in downtown Laconia. And so it pairs very nicely and allowed us to just keep what we were doing at our mill and then grow that at the mill and then grow that into programming at the Colonial as well. So each year we're planning a Colonial series and a mill series, and we'll have a slate of 4 or 5 big things at the Colonial and 4 or 5 smaller things at the mill and at Rotary Park.
So what's the time frame for you guys? When's your first production, or in either house, either the mill or the Colonial?
So we're already got 2 things in rehearsals for the mill series. In the fall, I did a playwriting workshop with a bunch of people in it. And the point of the workshop is to come out with, 10 to 15 minute plays that could be produced. So we have a Zoom festival in April and then a park festival in May.
So some of the plays were written specifically to be performed on Zoom. They were taking this class during the pandemic. And so some of them chose to write plays that were specifically designed to be on Zoom. And the other ones wrote plays that were specifically designed to be performed in a park, another place that we thought would be a safe place for people to perform.
So we've already had auditions for those, and there's over 30 people in each of the 2 festivals, which is great. Very excited to start off with something that so many people are involved in it. And some of it had to do with getting people interested to audition for new works that they never heard of is sometimes hard, but I think so many people were just looking for something theatrical to do that was safe that a lot of people came out. But we're really excited that we got off to a good start with that. And then our first Colonial production is scheduled for August, assuming it's safe to open a big indoor venue by August.
What's the feedback on that? Are you getting anything from the state on when they might let you do that?
I think the state it goes in small chunks. So I don't think we can look that far ahead. I mean, right now it looks like the trends are trending that it would be safe, but it's impossible to know with the variants and who knows what's coming down the pipe.
So we're in talking with Spectacle about making sure that we don't have the grand opening. There may be some smaller sort of socially distanced soft opening events, but we've been talking to Spectacle about making sure the grand opening doesn't happen until it's safe to bring 700 people into. It's a 750 seat theater. You don't want to have your grand opening with 50 people in it when versus waiting till it's safe to bring more people in and have a big
750. That's huge.
It is big. It actually used to have, I believe, 1,400, but with new guidelines about aisle widths and seat sizes and things like that, it's pared down. But it doesn't feel that huge. It's a really lovely, intimate space. You never feel like you're really far from the stage. It's just, we can't wait for people to get in there and see that it feels really, for such a large venue, it feels very intimate.
Yeah, that's one of the things I liked the best about it, because I was worried, us, we're used to programming in small, intimate venues, a lot of the stuff we've done over the years. And the thought of 700 seats, was a little off-putting. And then we got into it and realized this doesn't feel like a big theater. It holds a lot of people, but it feels like an intimate space. So I felt more comfortable saying, you can do a play in here and it's not going to feel like, you're just looking at little tiny people way in the distance and hearing them out of a speaker. So it really is, we think is going to be a jewel of a little theater to be able to fit so many people, but still feel a close connection between audience and stage.
Did you guys have any input on like the sound, lighting, any of that stuff for the Colonial?
In our limited
in our little limited expertise, we foisted that duty off more to people who understand that stuff a lot better than we do. But what we were able to tell them was, here's the basics of what a community theater program or a dance recital or something might need. Not the specific model per se, but what types of stuff we'd be looking to do in it so that they could pick the appropriate equipment. And
I should say they had a theater consultant that worked with the architects as well. And Mishashik Turpin were the architects from downtown Laconia.
We stayed in our lane as much as possible to what we were confident in and passed off the responsibility for the stuff we don't know as much about to people who knew what they're talking
So
about.
have you been in there? Have you tested the acoustics and seen what type of lighting and all that that's going on?
Actually, they haven't put the lights in yet, but they just put the speakers in, and you can look on Facebook at the Colonial Laconia Facebook page. And I don't think you'll be disappointed if you want sound in the speakers that they put in there. It's quite an array.
So if you think about it, they're outfitting it both for local groups to be able to use, but also for, big touring concerts and things to come through. And their spectacle specialty is music acts. So speaker wise, it's going to be designed to be able to do a really good, high quality sounding indoor concert. We were a lot more focused on, what the lighting capabilities would be and making sure that theatrical lighting would be the package they were putting in was amenable to that as well.
And it seems like a great package that with the way lights have come in the last bunch of years, there's lots of LED movable fixtures. LED. So you can have all kinds of colors in one light and it moves and you can program it. So I think the lights, people will be happy with the light.
So they have green rooms and everything?
Well, so the backstage stuff is a little more limiting than some of the other things. Like from the audience perspective, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be, a lot more bathrooms than there were in 1914 and wider aisles and comfortable seats. But theaters back then were designed differently and wing space and backstage space is much tighter. That if you were designing a building from scratch, a theater from scratch today, you'd put more peripheral space in it.
I know he and I disagree on this because I've been in old theaters and I think that as old theaters go, this one has really nice space. They took an entire section of a block on the side street next to the theater and incorporated it.
Well, that was the original.
Yes, it was once incorporated. It had been unincorporated and they reincorporated it. So there's these lovely sunny rooms that are right off of the stage, right next to bathrooms. There's a kitchen, there's showers. I think it's going to be, it might not be traditional.
It's not set
dressing room space in that, everyone has their little cube and there's, mirrors and lights, but I think it's going to be, for most people, it'll be a nice.
It's set up as multi-purpose space. I mean, they want people to have rehearsals back there. They want groups to have meetings back there. They want catered events to happen back there. So they put in a kitchen. It's multifunctional space. So people will sort of just have to adapt to use it as dressing room and green room and all these things at once.
There's also space under the stage as well. It's not polished and finished, but it's usable space as well.
So is it like the backstage space? Is it kind of like the Audi where there's like none?
Yes, but what it doesn't have that 3-story addition, section with all the dressing rooms stacked on top of each other.
And one nice thing is that the fly system is motorized, so there's not a huge
rail anywhere.
Rack of fly.
Yeah. 90 miles of rope.
Yes, it's all going to be automated and I think controlled by the light board and stuff like that. It's going to that's the thing about it. It's a very ornate, old-fashioned theater. There's, gilded cherubs along the face of the balcony and, gold leaf proscenium and things like that.
I have that on my house.
Exactly. So it's very old-fashioned in that regard, but it's going to be outfitted with completely up-to-date, modern lighting, sound, flies, et cetera. It'll be a nice mix of feeling like you get a sense of what it was like to be in that theater in 1914, but be able to have the comforts and the modernity.
And a shout out to the people who was a company from Brooklyn who did all the repainting of everything. They really did an amazing job. We'd been in there when it was crumbling away and there were giant pieces of plaster missing, and now you go in and you can't even tell what's new and what's old. And they even recreated some original stuff that they knew was there originally but that had been painted over, and they sort of figured out what was there and brought it back. A lot of detailed paint work.
Yeah, this company spent like a year just doing all the detailed historical painting to restore it to how it was. Like the entire ceiling has been repainted like leaf by leaf, panel by panel. It's quite ornate and quite beautiful.
I guess they're hoping to get a lot of restaurants and stuff in there too, right? That complement the theater.
The city is certainly looking at the Colonial to be the sort of the anchor point for attracting a lot of new business and a lot of new traffic to downtown. That's why the city and Belknap EDC invested in it, because they thought it could be the hub of a downtown revitalization. And there already has been in the last few years since they announced it, a lot of new businesses coming into Laconia with the anticipating that the Colonial opening, would eventually bring more traffic to the area.
Yeah, good. I hope it does. I mean, it's pretty dead down there right now, except for tattoo parlors and barbershops. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you're downtown on a Saturday night, there is not much open. You're right about that.
But it's looking nicer and nicer, and there's some very nice barbershops down there.
I wasn't trying to disparage.
They look really nice. I'm just saying the level of the kind of shine on the businesses has definitely gone up in the past.
Yeah. And the Mill actually also is in the middle of a capital campaign and already completed a phase where they redid their performing space, their event space on the third floor of the Mill.
Yeah.
So it's got all new lighting, all new floors. It's still got the beautiful exposed brick. So we're the lucky ones to sort of get to take advantage of these two spaces, both recently renovated, that hopefully our part in it will be throughout the year, 8 to 10 events going on a year. Our part will be bringing people to come check out these new spaces and become a part of the Mill, become a part of the Colonial. And the Colonial is going to have part-time event-related staffing opportunities as well as volunteering opportunities for ushering and things like that. The Mill is a community member-driven nonprofit, so there's always ways for people to get involved there. So the more events that are happening at both buildings, the more people are coming to Laconia and doing stuff.
Yeah. The Mill is an interesting place. It doesn't actually have a stage. Is there? I mean, because I've seen the readings there, but are you hoping to have a stage eventually? What do you want to do there?
The plan for the Mill is basically to do things that are more about interesting plays that provoke discussion. I mean, it's going to be obviously an intimate experience to be in a venue that size to do a play. So our plan for there is mostly like workshops and reading type things rather than full-scale productions.
Okay.
It's certainly possible. I mean,
they did just recently, they have a flexible staging system that we can put in, but sometimes it's just nicer to be on the floor. And
have you had other groups reach out to you to work with you? I mean, besides the players in Concord?
Not theater groups, but we actually have. So Johanna mentioned we put collaborative on our name. Was we see our sort of role at the Colonial as sort of, even though we are not managing the calendar or dealing with the rentals and stuff, we sort of see our role as being sort of Spectacle's liaison to the rest of the arts community in the Lakes region. We've already had an event where we hosted a Zoom meeting to introduce Spectacle to the different arts organizations. So representatives got on the Zoom and us and Spectacle told them about the plans for the Colonial and wanted to hear from them of how their groups might want to use it. And we also want to leverage our access to the Colonial to allow other people than just, necessarily theater people to use it. So I'll give you an example where we're talking to all the dance studios in the Lakes region about putting some joint theater dance event together for like, a one day. We're calling it a winter dance extravaganza, but that title is subject to change. But where each dance company performs a few numbers and we maybe perform some music acts or things like that. And we provide a low cost ticketed event that gets a whole bunch of different dance kids on stage, things like that. We're talking to the Lakes Region Symphony Orchestra about doing some kind of joint production with them, using them as the orchestra and us for the musical theater actors. We're talking to all the different high schools in the Lakes region about us sort of being the producer for a joint high school production where we pick a piece that can be segmented and each school works on their own piece, but then we bring all the kids together for a production week to put a whole product together made up of these pieces.
We haven't done a lot yet, so we haven't worked with a lot of theaters yet, but our plan is working not just with theaters, but schools, historical societies, civic groups, all kinds of groups.
I don't know how your heads don't explode. I mean,
this is getting bigger.
You were so busy before this. It's not like you just had, these spare blocks of time that, why don't we just stick in a new theater group, start that and contact the state, everyone, get our list out and just start hitting up dance groups and geez.
Well, that's been fun. And actually that's been a good way to sort of see the community's interest in the Colonial and it being brought back to life. We started looking for sponsors for our 2021 productions, and the businesses we talked to were so excited about what's going on and want to see this coming back. So we felt a lot of, just in the numbers of conversations we've been having so far with different people, we feel really good that we're going to provide something that people are going to be excited about. And why Johanna and I got into theater is we wanted to do theater that meant something to our community and help build community. And by tying the Mill and the Colonial together, by working with other types of artists, we're really, really excited to see what we can do that really makes the Colonial a place that the Lakes Region community has a lot of affection for, wants to support, provides a lot of value and good things into their lives. So this program, I think, we've been theater nomads for a while. We had our other theater company before that at the Playhouse. And, I think this is really giving Johanna and I an opportunity to find all the best parts of theater that we like to do and put it into sort of one community-based program that touches a lot of different types of theater and types of performing arts and brings them all together.
Talk about dance groups. Have you ever been in Concord when they've been having their festivals down there? My God, it's amazing what kind of traffic that pulls in there.
Well, Spectacle in the other venues it manages is very, very aware of those types of, big dance events. But interestingly, again, this thing that we proposed with these dance companies, one of the reasons we proposed it was we know a lot of these companies have these competition teams that goes to these, sort of big pageanty events where they're in competition for trophies and stuff. Yeah. And we said, wouldn't it be nice to work together on an event that's not competitive, that's collaborative, and you all get to show your own piece of it, but we're all working together to put on this event that, the audience can enjoy.
And we can have a educational component and have a master class where kids from different schools and different dance studios work together on a piece, and they would not have had the chance to do that except, in this type of collaborative event. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how comprehensive that could potentially turn out to be.
Yeah, we're a little worried. We think the Colonial calendar is going to get filled up pretty quickly, and we've got our 5 weeks, and then, gosh, there may be a lot more opportunities than just 5 to, come up with things to do in this space year after year.
Yeah, but Ray's right. We only have so much time. We're gonna get we've been spoiled in that obviously this last year there's been a lot of extra time to do things and so we've made a lot of big plans, and now executing them, that's the next step.
But, she always worries about stuff like that. I rather find things to do. But I also keep reminding her, the types of productions we're putting into the Mill don't take the same amount of time as doing a big production, directing a big musical at the Colonial. So even though we have a lot of events to offer the public, not all of them are equal in terms of how much of our time they take. And that's the nice part about being able to do the big things and the small things. The small things allow us to have other events to offer the public that, aren't interested in a big musical, but do want to hear about this play that, touches on immigration or the climate or something that we can then have a good community discussion about. Yeah. So we can offer things like that at the Mill, where it's not prohibitively expensive to put it on for us. And the people who are interested in that type of theater that's maybe a little more thought-provoking or something that's new that we couldn't sell in a 750-seat theater, we could still do those little interesting things and pull in our actor friends who, want to work on something like that. And it doesn't take a huge amount of our time. So we still have plenty of time to work on the big thing that's going on 6 weeks later at the Colonial.
Yeah, there's a lot of small theater groups that don't have a space to work in. Are you thinking or hoping at some point to bring them in to work in the Mill? I'm kind of thinking of groups like Lend Me a Theater. They just don't have any home. They could maybe use a space like that to rehearse, or, there's no space around, right?
Yeah, so no. The answer to that question is no. So that's one of the reasons that our model with a limited budget can work, is that being the resident company of both the Mill and the Colonial, if one of them isn't available for rehearsal, the other one probably is.
So we could work on something jointly, but we probably couldn't give up our
space. And also don't forget, we're a part of the Mill and the Colonial, so we're the home, sort of the home group. But both of these venues are rental venues that are designed to, if other groups want to rent the space, that's how
and they
they'll
both
make
have
some income to sustain
nonprofit
themselves.
Rates and ways that they could work with groups. So too.
But I mean, a theater like Lend Me a Theater could certainly rent the Colonial for a week to put up their show there. The Colonial calendar will be open to, any group that can work with them and come up with they'll have a rental rate and package to offer. But
do you have any fear that the community theater side of it could eventually get squeezed out
at the Colonial?
Yeah.
Well, at least not for the length of our contract period. But one thing I think to remember, and this is something Spectacle told us when we first met with them, because we were a little unsure how the pieces would fit together, that in a venue that they manage, they're usually, if it's a very active venue, they're booking 30 to 35 one-night events a year. That leaves a lot of weekends open for other things to happen. And, they're not going to be starting at the Colonial going right to 30 events a year. They need to assess what the market is like and what kind of events sell well here. Long term, it really all depends on what's successful. I like to believe that our community theater is going to become such a big part of it that it's going to be integral to the success of the venue staying open, because we're filling at least 5 weekends a year, and we're bringing a lot of people there. Not every show, but we're looking for shows. In general, the Colonial shows, we're hoping are 20 people and up, and we've got some shows on our plans for the next few years that could have like 50 people in them. We'll not only be able to provide high quality community theater where the real serious community theater actors who want to do high quality work come out and vie for the leads, but also shows where somebody who just wants to see what theater is like or really loves that play because they read it in high school, and there's an ensemble, and they're going to be in the ensemble and get the experience and feel good about being a part of it, and don't have to be a star for it to add something to the overall component and get something out of it that's satisfying and makes them feel like it was time well spent.
Where do you see Powerhouse in like 5 years? What's your hope there and goal? You want to stay at the Mill? Is that what your ultimate?
I mean, right now, I think it's a great partnership. We're fulfilling their mission, and we're adding. They have a very robust program. We're launching a new website with them on the 17th of March, and when you go to it, you'll see they just have so much going on, and this just adds another layer. So I think that's a really great partnership. So I think for the foreseeable future, unless the program gets too big to be under their banner, I don't see why we wouldn't stay there.
Yeah, we constantly talking about how between Spectacle, the Mill, and us, it's really a win-win-win. The relationship with us being, based at the Mill, but a key component of both facilities really benefits all of us. It gives us a lot of flexibility in our programming, and really gives both of them new things, additional things that bring people into their spaces. So it's really, so far, I mean, obviously it's brand new and things change, but so far the relationship between all parties is working really well. And I think the question is just how quickly we grow. And we're fully aware that not everything we produce in the Colonial is going to be a home run and make money and keep us in business. And a lot will depend on how our public support grows. We have basically 3 sources of funding for the program. We've got donations, sponsorships, and ticket sales. And obviously, we're hoping there's a balance between all 3. The nice part is, at the Colonial with 750 seats, if we develop a following, there's a lot of potential ticket revenue to keep us growing. But if not, as long as there's donors and supporters and sponsors who value what we do and can help us keep the doors open. And by being a part of the Mill and the Colonial, the really nice part about it is all the money we're raising really goes straight into our productions. We don't have a lot of overhead because we don't own a space. We don't rent a space. We have access to both facilities, but we're not paying for our own phone lines. We're not paying for box office services. We're not paying, for insurance. We're part of the Mill. So, really everything we have to bring in goes right back out into our productions.
If people want to help you, what avenue can they take to contact you?
Sure. So we have an email set up, powerhouse@belknapmill.org. We don't have like a storage facility at this point, though we obviously will have to start building up costume and prop and, sets, pieces, storage at some point. Right now it's kind of like we have 2 homes and we have no home, because we have no sort of like base studio or something like a lot of the groups do. to keep everything. So something like that at some point would probably be helpful if there's somebody who has some sort of empty space where we can store things that might be useful. Early on, really what we need is people to come buy tickets to our shows and spread the word about them. That's really the best way to help. If you can't come see a show but can make a donation because you want to see this program succeed, that's the way to do it. But we'd love to be able to say, yeah, we're selling 500 seats of performers at the Colonial, and you know what? We don't really need to bother, you for sponsorship because we're doing okay. So I would just say most of the businesses we're talking to are wanting to sponsor us right now because they really want the Colonial to succeed. They see what the potential that has for sort of bringing a new spark to downtown Laconia. Something that's interesting that people don't think about is by rehearsing our productions in downtown Laconia as well, we're not just bringing people to come to downtown Laconia, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. We'll be bringing people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night too to come to rehearsals. And those people might want to grab a burrito before rehearsal or have a drink afterwards and stuff.
And there's plenty of parking too with the garage right there, right?
Well, probably people will park behind at the City Hall lot, not so necessarily in the garage. I don't know.
And across the street, there's also parking as
well. But there is plenty of parking in easy walking distance to the Colonial.
Is the garage not? Am I wrong? Is the garage
not? The garage is available as well.
It's got some structural issues. That's been in the paper. You're not reading the paper enough, but they want to rebuild that at some point because it's one, not so pretty, and two, has some structural issues. So,
well, maybe this will be some kind of a drive for them.
Parts that are open are safe.
You're right. I think one of the things is if the Colonial is wildly successful and people are coming to downtown regularly, that will obviously give the city some reason and confidence that it'd be worth investing in, more parking for downtown.
Yeah.
So I think you make a really good point that these things will feed each other.
Right.
The more people the Colonial is bringing, the more investment the city will, and other businesses will want to make in downtown.
Okay, so have we covered everything? Mill?
Well, you want to know what shows we're doing?
Well, Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I didn't know you wanted to get into that at this point, but yes, I do.
Yeah, so we're announcing next Wednesday at the Mill's annual meeting. So as long as you don't air this till after next Wednesday, we can tell you. You already heard about the first two for the Mill series. Those are both the playwriting festivals, the Zoom one and the Park one. Our August play we're starting with a smaller play at the Colonial, which will not be our norm, but we're doing this for a few reasons. We're doing The Dinner Party by Neil Simon, which is in partnership with the Community Players at Concord. And there's a couple of reasons we're doing that. One is because I already had a cast in place because I was supposed to do it with Concord last spring at the Hatbox. And we had our read-through sort of the night before everything went dark and shut down. So I already had a cast in place. And because it's a small cast and not such a huge show to manage, we thought if for any reason we can't open it in August in the Colonial, it's a little bit easier to move with less moving pieces. So it's sort of like our soft Colonial opening with a little bit smaller show. And then in September,
we're doing a reading of The Guys by Ann Nelson, which is the story of a firefighter who loses a lot of his company on 9/11 and is really struggling to write all these eulogies, and a writer who is also struggling with the aftermath because she's from New York, and they pair up together to write the eulogies together.
So it's sort of like in honor of the fallen heroes of 9/11.
And it's the 20th anniversary this year, if you can believe that.
Geez, that is hard to believe. And I didn't see the original one the first time, but I heard great things. I mean, great things about it. So I'd assume it's just going to be just as great the next time.
It's a nice piece, and it just is it's a nice way, I think, to commemorate 9/11 and talk about it without being too traumatizing or anything like that. And then in November is really our first big show, and it's one I'm really excited about because we're going to be doing Our Town, which is my favorite play. And, that's a perfect example of a play that needs 25 people, but could have 50 people in it if they wanted to. And I'm going to really encourage that anyone who just wants to be a part of that production, come be in the choir, come be in the graveyard scene, find out from the inside what it's like to be in a big community theater production, even if you're petrified of learning lines or don't even want any lines. But, I would really love to see, I always view that as that's our community, our first big community building show. And obviously it's a play about New Hampshire, small town community. but it's so relevant to the world at any time and humanity, which is why it gets done so often.
Are you going to do that period wise, or are you going to do that contemporary? What's your goal with that?
No, I'm going to do it period wise. I mean, I think my feeling on that play is I don't know how well you know it, Ray, but the scene at the end of Act 1 where Rebecca is talking about this letter that was received in town that said, I forget the girl's name, but so-and-so, Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, the United States, the world, the universe. And I think that is I think that, to me, that's sort of the essence of that play. Even though it's so specific to sort of the time and place it takes place, it is completely relevant to any human being on the planet or in the universe at any place. So it works on a micro level of small town New Hampshire, and a macro level of the mind of God, I think.
Mind of God, you're right.
It works on both of those levels. So I think by making it specific to the period, it's so easily extractable to anywhere at any time that I don't see a need to really, muck too much with Wilder's original intent.
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful piece, and I'm really looking forward to working on it again. I will say I did it 15 years ago, and it was a quite well-received production of it. But I'm really excited to look at it again because I've changed a lot in 15 years. And I noticed that with a lot of pieces that I maybe did at one time in my life, and now I see them with a different set of eyes. I had tiny children when I did it then, and now I have large children. And, I'm feeling every bit of my 47 years now, which I was Superman and when I was, 31, 32 and did it. So
you're still good looking. So that's good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's why she keeps me.
Oh, that's why.
So I think it's a great piece to revisit it at different phases of your life because it has different meaning to you depending on where you are in things.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
So I'm super excited to get back into rehearsals on that one. And then we finish with a show you're very familiar with, but Joel Mercier's musical adaptation of A Christmas Carol called A Christmas Carol, the musical ghost story. And that is something we're partnering with his theater, NCCA at Gene's Playhouse. If it does really well and people are excited about it, that's something we're looking to make an annual event. There isn't really an annual Christmas Carol north of Concord, and Gene's Playhouse is based in Lincoln, and obviously we're in the Lakes region. And in all my years in the Lakes region, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a Christmas Carol up here.
Is that right? All the productions that people do?
Yeah, I can't think of one. I mean, Joel did his in Concord, and Andrew Pinard does one at Hatbox in Concord. The Playhouse did a reading, and the Palace does Christmas Carol every year down in Manchester, and Peacock Players does it in Nashua every few years. But I can't think of any groups that do it up further north of Concord. Wow. So we're excited about that, and that's another example of why collaborations work well too. I'll be busy with our town for November. And Joel will be, we're co-producing it with Gene's, but Joel's directing and music directing it. And, he'll be taking point on leading that one. Even though we're sort of working on two things at once, we're adding, through collaboration, we're finding different people to take point on the different things.
Is Joel's collaboration with you the first group to collaborate with you in this year? Or was there someone else?
Yeah, Community Players of Concord, we're working with them on both the festival as well as the dinner party. So, and there are plenty of plays we want to do by ourselves. We don't know how often we'll collaborate specifically on plays. A lot of the collaborations we're looking to do are going to be things we can't do by ourselves. That's sort of the point. Like, with Lakes Region Symphony Orchestra, we're talking about doing like a concert version of a musical in front of their big orchestra. That's not something we could do by ourselves. So when we're collaborating in general, we're going to look for ways to collaborate with on projects that the talents or the expertise of the groups we're collaborating with make it different from just another community theater production that we could have produced ourselves.
So that gets us to December. Are you anything projected for after December potentially? I mean, are you working on next season?
Yeah. So as we said, this is our season is going to be calendar year. So that's our 2021 season. 3 events for the Mill series, 3 events for the Colonial series. We're putting together the 2022 season now, but we haven't locked anything in yet, so there's nothing we can announce. Right now, we're planning 5 in each series for 2022. So that will really be our first full season where we're testing is 10 things to produce in a year too much, or can we handle that? But being our first full year, we wanted to sort of go for it and see what we're able to do. And I think the success of our 2021 will go a long way to inspiring us with confidence or not for what we're able to accomplish in 2022.
Do you want other groups to reach out to you for 2022 to start that process, or do you just want to wait until you see what happens in 2021?
We want to talk to groups at any time, whether we want to plan something for 2022 or we say, hey, you bring this to the table and we bring this, let's work together. And some of the things we're talking about are further down the road and some of the things are shorter term.
Right. Like the orchestra already has their 2022 year plan. So we're talking, if this is going to happen with the orchestra, that would be 2023. We're talking to the high schools about 2022. We're talking to the dance companies about 2022. I mean, I think we're absolutely always going to be happy to have a conversation. That's part of the fun of this business, is meeting different artists and with different talents and different knowledge and different ideas and seeing what works. So yeah, we're always happy to talk, but we are planning long term. So it's a question of when it would fit and be mutually beneficial in the schedules.
I don't want to put a hex on anybody, and I certainly hope I don't, but the hat box, I'm not sure what's going on down there. I'm going to talk to Andrew, I hope, in a week or so. Do you see something similar to that where you are helping groups that, I don't even know how to put this, they fill a slot down there, they fill a need. And it seems like you could kind of be in that same boat where you could help out these groups to.
I see us as more collaborative.
Okay.
In that occasionally Hatbox produces something on its own, but I see us as working with another group, like we're working with Concord right now, to
co-produce,
to bring, for each group to bring something to the table, not just a space and the infrastructure of the box office and things like that.
I think the key difference between what we're doing in Hatbox is, Hatbox has a space that's open all year and needs people to bring in productions to work in that space so they can fill their calendar.
Right.
Colonial is a little bit different because we're not actually managing the Colonial calendar. Spectacle is the one who's managing the calendar and will have their own events to put in, our events to put in, and then other than that, we'll be renting it to groups. So a group that uses the Hatbox could use the Colonial, but they have to, rent it in a different way. At the Hatbox, it's a box office split based on, revenue. At the Colonial, it's going to be a rental fee to rent the space for a week. But that's the key difference. We don't have a calendar to fill. Mm-hmm. We just have our 5 weeks to do with as we please. And the rest of the calendar is managed by Spectacle as opposed to Hatbox, which has its whole year to fill.
Is that your 5 week thing? Is that very similar to, are you doing something similar at the Mill? You have so many weeks there that you.
No, I mean, the Mill is sort of just, we can, as long, most of the performance event space, they do a lot of weddings in non-COVID times, so most Saturdays are taken up by weddings. So like if we're doing a reading, we'll do a Friday night, Sunday afternoon, so they can have the wedding on the Saturday, and then we, put our stuff back out for Sunday. So for the Mill, it's like, as we have projects that we want to do there, as long as the space is available, we can book it and use it. But we think 5 is about the right number for both spaces, at least to start with.
Good.
So now it's just a case of getting, the most talented community actors in New Hampshire, like yourself, to come audition. So we can have, really.
Doesn't stop. He doesn't stop.
Ray, I know you like to be flattered and I know you like to be courted. So I'm just telling you, the invitation is open for you. Anytime you want, you come out for one of our Powerhouse productions.
Thanks. So where are you guys going to be? You're just going to be posting on Facebook all the time? Where are you going to be? Where's everything going to?
So yes, we do have a Facebook page.
That's already active.
You can find Powerhouse Theatre Collaborative on Facebook. You could also sign up for the Mill newsletter. So belknapmill.org. There's a place to sign up for the newsletter. And then we also will be posting those things on the website. We are under the Belknap Mill website. There's a section for Powerhouse. So we'll sprinkle them in all those places. Okay. And we'll tell you, and you can shout it around too.
Well, we'll keep doing podcasts about it. I hope it turns out to be great. I really do. Because just to get some life up there, is so important. I drive through and it's sad, to see so many businesses, slots that are open for businesses and stuff. And I really do hope that it brings life down there.
Well, based on the excitement of the people we've been talking to, I think there's going to be an early rush to check it out once it opens, and people are going to be really excited. And then I think it's up to us in Spectacle to make sure that the programming is quality programming so that people will want it to continue to come.
Yeah.
And I think if that happens, then we will see those storefronts filling up and new businesses coming in and businesses staying open in the evening because they know there's going to be traffic. That was the dream of BDC and the city of Laconia when they started this thing 5 or 6 years ago. Their dream was that once this opens, it will become like the anchor tenant, I think they call it, for driving a lot of people to come to downtown Laconia.
We should say it was also David Bound's dream that this would happen, and we're really sorry that he's not around to see it opening, and we are dedicating our first season to David.
Oh, that's nice. I was shocked. I didn't even know. I found out like rumor or something. I saw something on Facebook. I didn't even know he was sick, or I don't even know how he passed away, but all of a sudden I see he's gone.
And we're really sad that he can't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real thing. He worked for so many years to see this thing, come to fruition, and it's definitely saddens us that he won't get to see it open. But our little part is to dedicate our season to him and make sure people know that he did make an important contribution to making sure the arts came back to life in Laconia.
Great. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. I mean, Spectacle's working on their web presence. The Mill's working on their web presence. People who want to find things to do in downtown Laconia, those will be the two venues that are really doing a lot of different events. And we didn't even touch on, the Mill has so many programs besides the arts, historical, and it's a museum. The Powerhouse, where we take our name from, is still intact, and you can see the old big wheel and the old electric I don't know the right term, the transformer wall with the the levers and stuff, and
yeah,
you can see the one that you would have clicked if you wanted to divert power to the town, from the Mill. It's kind of neat to think about that. So it's a cool place to visit.
They have a lot of music there as well. Right now they have an online music series. Well, we can't get together in person, and then there's a summer concert series that's free in the park. So yeah, you should definitely check out belknapmill.org and
I had no idea. Honest to God, I had no idea till I went to
right now.
I didn't even know it existed.
Right now, we're working on the new website. So if you go there, it says check us out soon. But on the 17th, we will launch the website, and you'll get to see how many programs there are there. It's quite a busy place.
Actually, one other thing I want to pitch to you, because I mentioned this to you briefly, but so here's a really good example of the synergy of us working as part of the Mill. The Mill's big educational program is called the Industrial Heritage Program. People watching may have heard of this, but every year, fourth graders from all over the state take a field trip to the Mill, and they get the experience of a day in the life of a mill worker. It focuses on 1918, when the Belknap Mill was making socks for the Army in World War I. So they have volunteers who man different stations to show the different jobs of the mill, and the kids get assigned a little costume and a name and a job. So they go learn their job and then see how it all goes together.
And then they get a dime.
And then they get a dime as their pay for the end of the day. So like our daughters, when they were in fourth grade, they went to it. And one of our daughters, I think she still remembers the name she was given and stuff. And so this has been an ongoing, I think 25 years program for fourth graders in New Hampshire. And then obviously last year with COVID, they couldn't do it. And this year with COVID, they're not going to be able to bring kids into the Mill.
They're doing it semi-virtually.
So in one of our meetings, we discussed, well, what could we do to provide this experience for the kids who are missing it over these 2 years? And so Johanna and I took the material for what the volunteers used to explain the jobs and their characters and stuff, and we're turning it into a video script. So we're going to be producing, we're applying to the New Hampshire Humanities Council for a grant, and we're going to be producing a video that sort of recreates in movie form the experience of the kids when they come to the Mill. And what we realized is, now, this won't just be useful for COVID. This actually allows the Mill to expand this program to anywhere in the world, because it's got an educational packet that goes with the live experience that can just as easily go with the video experience. So now, besides only having, schools, fourth grades within driving distance to Laconia that have the money to afford a bus and to pay for a field trip, having access to this program. Now, any school anywhere in the world who wants to learn about industrial heritage of New England and factory life could rent this program for their classrooms, get an educational teacher packet to go with it, and bring the Belknap Mill experience to the classroom.
It really is brilliant.
So anyway, I'm going to hit you up to play a role in it once the grant funding comes through, because we definitely can't
worry about my heart. I'm going to use that as an excuse.
What's that?
My heart.
Oh, come on. Your heart's in the right place. There's no yelling in the piece either.
No, I really think it's a great idea, though. It looks like a documentary, right? At that point.
Yeah. So we'll have two fourth grade-ish child actors, sort of becoming the stand-ins for the kids, and we'll see this program through their eyes. Sort of go through the experience through their eyes as a stand-in. We're not quite there yet. We're hoping to film this summer or fall if we get the grant. But, it's just what Johanna and I have found since we joined the Mill and started talking with Spectacle is right up our alley is using theater to find ways to communicate and participate and share our talents with the community. And whether it's video, whether it's a big production, whether it's a reading and discussion, this is exactly what we like to do and how we like to use theater. And so, we're finding through the different groups we're talking with and through the different Mill programs that we're integrating with, just a lot of new different ways for us to sort of expand our horizons and our talents.
Good. I'm glad. It seems like a great fit for you. I mean, it really does. You're very comfortable with it at this point. It's not like you're frazzled and.
Well, we haven't done anything yet, so it's easy to be confident. But when the first 3 productions sell 50 tickets, and we might be more frazzled then.
Oh, been through that.
Sure.
Been through that. And less tickets.
But, like any theater, except the fact that we don't have a track record, because we're brand new, navigating the post-COVID theater world is going to be something we all have to get through. I mean, Just because the governor may say, yeah, you can have 500 people inside of the Colonial, doesn't mean they're going to be 500 people willing to come sit next,
right.
shoulder to shoulder with their neighbor
right.
who they don't know in the Colonial. So we'll just have to see.
Boy, talk about flying blind. I mean, it's really going to be very interesting to see what happens. I know a lot of groups I've been kind of following along. A lot of groups are trying to open up. We don't know if the audience is going to be there.
Well, that's what we have the advantage that we don't have history, that we can really wait till we feel it's safe to do sort of our first big grand opening production, because why waste a big splash in a little pond if people aren't ready to come out yet?
And you're not worried, like you said before, about overhead. You don't have a building. You don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about electricity.
Yeah, we're lucky in that way right now.
Yeah.
That's realistically, that's how we're able to make this thing conceivably work, in that we can spend on our productions because that's what we're putting our money into, not into rent, not into phone lines and internet and all that stuff. So we're lucky that way. That's all thanks to the Mill being, taking us under their wing and providing a home base for us. And, so we're excited about that relationship, and our fingers are crossed that we can make the program sustainable.
This month is membership month at the Mill, so you can go to their website and become a member and then support all their different programs. Good plug.
Anything else that needs to come up? Phone numbers, emails, we did some websites, anything you need.
Yeah, belknapmill.org and Powerhouse at belknapmill.org if you want to send us an email.
Okay. And the Facebook page is Powerhouse Theatre Collaborative. That's the bulk of our presence right now, but by the time this airs next week, we'll have a website as part of the Mill's webpage, and we'll be good to go. We're excited to get started, and we're patiently waiting. But like you said, since we can't actually do anything but plan, we're doing a lot of planning. I've already got working on 2022 and 2023, and Johanna doesn't even know I've started to pencil a few things in for 2024. So I got a lot.
Secret. She won't know.
I'm retired by then. That seems like a long way away.
Yeah, well, my mind goes. It's what I do.
I know it is. I know it is. And there you have it. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.